Hi, my name is Rich. I run product and engineering teams in the SaaS space, and I wanted to show you an open source project I've been working on. You can go to the GitHub repo at that URL or click on the QR code. It'll take you to the same spot. And this is meant to help me and maybe my team navigate the agentic programming world, a journey that we're all on here, trying to figure out how AI and development work together to release quality software. So I'm just going to go through a few slides, and then we'll get right into it, and I'll show you how it works. So like many of you out there, I've been moving through the stages of adopting AI as a coding partner. I started with Vibe for prototyping. I moved into Cursor for being a coding partner. And now I'm here at stage 3 trying to figure out how to let the code go completely and trust the code like I wrote it myself. And that's the hard part. So that's what Purlin is trying to solve. For me, software that is designed in a team and has multi-disciplines coming together to produce the outcome is more confidence inspiring. And that's what I want to try to capture with Purlin. AI has a really great ability to bring a lot of those disciplines together and empower the single person. And a lot of what you see online is teams and people that have said, now our individuals can do all of the work of the team and produce the output. This is really awesome. It's empowering, but it also makes me less confident. As Bjarne Strostrup has said, he's the inventor of C++, design and programming are human activities. And the human part of that collaboration is what I would really like to capture with Purlin. And I'm asking a few questions while doing that. First is, does code matter anymore? And the answer is complicated, and we're not going to talk about that here. But as I've been accepting changes that Cursor, that whatever agent I'm using in Cursor recommends to me without looking at the diff in detail, I've been asking this question over and over. Does it matter? Does it matter? And I think we're going to have to force ourselves to answer this question in different contexts. So that's a big part of this. 2, can we trust AI created software to be correct? When I started this, I said no, I didn't trust my software, and I wouldn't trust anything that was vibe coded for sure. So what aspects about the software design process and build process can make it trustworthy? 3, can AI enforce a common domain model? And the domain model is really a common language that each side can talk about such that the problem is well scoped and well understood. When a designer talks about a user interface versus a software engineer speaking about a user interface, their brains are in different places. And having that common language is the thing that makes the software better. Can AI help enforce that? And can AI be a facilitator? That's question 3. And then 4, can agentic dev, so sitting there using an agent to build software, can it be collaborative? Can it not be a solo activity? And can it actually be a continuous process with other people? So these are the main questions I'm trying to solve with Purlin, and let's get into it. Okay, so let's switch over to my terminal. I'm going to use Claude to vibe code a website here. I won't show you the whole thing. We'll fast forward through it, but I just want to show you the difference between doing it raw in Claude versus what we would do in Purlin. So here's the prompt, and we'll let it go. All right, we're back. Claude has done what I asked. It wrote some code, created a standalone React server that is now running. So let's go and see what it did. Well, that's not great. Okay, so here it is, the eigenweather site, right? So the standard average of all of the websites out there that it was trained on. So this is fine. This is not what I would consider trustworthy code because even though I can go and introspect the code and continue to work on it, if I were to continue to iterate on this code, it would be a process of either getting deeper into the code or getting further away from the code. Deeper in the code potentially slows me down. Getting away from the code potentially gives me less confidence. So that was kind of the problem that I was running into that I'm trying to solve here. All right, so let's move over to test 2 over here. In this test, I'm going to install Purlin, and I'll copy the code out of here. This is the GitHub page. I decided to release Purlin as a Git subrepo, submodule, because I wanted to integrate well with your code, and I think it becomes a better experience for the developer when you can treat it like an updatable part of your code base. So that's what I'm doing here. So let's initialize Git, paste the submodule code here, and what you get out of that is a Purlin subdirectory. And what you get in the Purlin subdirectory is some install stuff. So so we have a bootstrap script that will grab things from the Purlin project and stick it into your main project here. So Purlin is just a set of agent instructions written in Markdown in certain ways to install as skills, combined with an aggressive use of Git and Markdown files that represent a centralized view of your specifications. And this will all make sense in a second, but I think the main point here is we're not doing anything fancy with databases or anything heavyweight. This is all human readable Markdown config files and Git commits. So we're trying to keep it as simple as possible. So let's first run the architect. I'm letting it start up here, and you'll see that there's some custom skills that have been loaded in, and it's actually taking a look at what it needs to do. So I started the architect, and it figured out a bunch of stuff that's going on, and it's recommending a bunch of stuff to me. Let's ignore all that for now. I'm just going to give it the same prompt I gave the standalone Claude, and we're going to let it go. So while Claude is running, I'm going to start the Purlin dashboard, which will help us visualize what's going on. So this runs locally, and it looks like this. We're not going to focus on this right now. This is a collaboration tool that helps us work together. What I'm going to focus on is this, which is what is the Claude architect actually doing? It's not writing code. It's writing feature files, and it is building a DAG, a directed acyclic graph of feature files that, when put together, can be a set of instructions that the builder follows to build the actual code. And these are just Markdown files. These are plain language Markdown files that help define the behavior of the project. It's creating it all itself from a very basic prompt. These are not great, but they're better than what we got from the raw version of Claude. They have test-driven scenarios in here so that automated tests are created right alongside the code, and manual testing scenarios and visual specification scenarios that the QA agent can go and help users introspect. This gets very deep, so I won't even talk about it, but they're written in Gherkin and basically help you do test-driven design with these documents. Everything depends on each other. So when you want to build the actual weather app, you can see all the dependencies. It depends on geolocation. It depends on a certain architecture and a tech stack. It depends on certain visual standards. And so this is the way that we organize what the code should do in a way that can make you more confident. So this is what's going on right now as Claude is working. Okay, so Claude as the architect is now done with its work. And we can exit this agent, and we can run, instead of the architect, we can run the builder. Now the builder is going to do the same thing. It's actually going to bootstrap, and it's going to figure out what it needs to do. And what it needs to do is defined by a number of things. One is a set of scripts that we have called the critic that helps it get a status of all of the ongoing work. But it's also going to go and scan the features directory and see what it did not do. And we try to be very efficient with context usage here. So the critic helps guide it into what feature files it looks at. But right now, basically, it didn't implement anything. So it's going to see all the features that it didn't implement. And what it'll do is it'll find, it'll figure out how to translate the specs into code, not the original request that I wrote, but the specs into the code. And it's going to also look at if it needs to do some phasing on that. If it's going to run out of context in the middle of it, it will propose phases to implement the project where you can essentially exit the builder and come back to it and then it'll remember, hey, I'm on phase 2, and it'll start phase 2. So it's doing a lot of work here that you would have to do normally as a agentic developer to guide the builder, but it's all being done based on specs. So while the builder is going, I just wanted to show you the collaboration dashboard here, which tracks what work is going on and what the architect, the builder, and QA have to do. And so the architect is done with its work, the builder is doing some work, and is assigning QA some work as well. So this is just a part of the collaboration features that have been built into this, and I won't get into too much detail, but it's just a sort of preview. Okay, the builder agent is done with phase 1, and I'm going to quit and come back and clear context and do phase 2. So it'll automatically detect that it has to do phase 2 and go for it. Okay, the builder is done, and it says that we are now in testing. So we don't have to test right away. There's code here. So let's quit. And now let's run the server. So put it the same port that the other one was at. So we'll go back here and let's see what we got. Okay, well, it worked on the first try. It's simple. Found my address, which is great. It's in Celsius. For some reason, it gives me a switch. So this looks very similar to the old one in terms of functionality. Visually, it's completely different. But what did we get here? We didn't get an app. We got an entire structure of requirements with the app. Yes, it burned more context, tokens. Yes, it burned more coal making it. Yes, it burned more time. But the resulting project is something I believe is more maintainable, and it's something that sets up a collaboration for a team. And so when you look at things like the visual standards, you can go and change this, or ideally you interact with the AI to change this, and it can easily change what's going on here. While the AI was doing its work, while the builder was doing its work, it was recording implementation notes. Now, this is a sidecar file, another markdown file that lives next to the features. And this is where the communication happens. So it takes notes, the builder takes notes on what it's actually doing, some confusing parts of the specification. And it's where the QA agent reports discoveries and bugs and things like that. And this file grows pretty aggressively, which is why we left it as a sidecar file. We didn't want the specifications to load down context with all the implementation notes, but the implementation notes are where it really, between the two files, you get a complete story of what was instructed, what was guided, and what decisions were made during the process, both automated decisions and things that happened during QA or during debugging with the agent. So that is kind of the summary of where we're at right now. This could be the last video on this. This could go away. What I want to do with this is test it with my team. And what I want to do is figure out if we can collaborate with it. Now, one of the big problems here is we're running on the same machine. How are you going to collaborate with the same machine? This is the next big step with Purlin. Right now, we have local Git check-ins that are basically creating this entire structure, pushing it to a remote repository, and then allowing people to collaborate on a branch in that remote repository with their own versions of Purlin and agents running locally is the goal. So I should be running a few agents. My engineer should be running a few agents, my QA person, my product manager, and we can all collaborate through this entire structure by pushing features and requirements to the architect, by creating the actual code with the builder, and then by going into QA, which I haven't shown in this video. It'll get long if I do, to validate the outcome. And so, we'll see where this goes. My next step is to try to test it with my team on a small project. It's very different to start a small project with this than to integrate it with existing code. That's another challenge. I'm sure all of you have a bunch of ideas in your head, if you got this far in the video, that are saying like why it can or cannot work with your own project. I'd love to hear ideas. But this is my proposal for where we might need to go here. I'm going to try it and, share your journey too. Thanks.